The wilderness stretches endlessly across a frozen and unforgiving land where survival depends not on comfort or safety, but on sheer determination and resilience. Towering trees stand silent beneath heavy snow, icy rivers carve their way through the wilderness, and the bitter wind sweeps across the mountains like a relentless force of nature. In this harsh frontier, only the strongest and most determined can survive. Among the men who travel through this brutal landscape is a skilled frontiersman named Hugh Glass, portrayed by Leonardo DiCaprio. Glass is a quiet and experienced tracker whose knowledge of the wild has helped many men navigate territories that most people would never dare to enter. Glass travels with a group of fur trappers who depend on the land for survival. Their mission is simple yet dangerous: gather valuable animal pelts and return safely before winter tightens its grip on the region. But the wilderness is unpredictable, and every step through the forest carries the risk of attack, starvation, or exposure to deadly weather. Despite these dangers, Glass remains calm and focused, relying on his deep understanding of nature to guide the group through treacherous terrain. Among the men traveling with the expedition is John Fitzgerald. Played by Tom Hardy, Fitzgerald is hardened by years of hardship and carries a cynical view of the world. Unlike Glass, who respects the wilderness and moves through it carefully, Fitzgerald often sees survival as a brutal contest where only ruthless decisions keep a person alive. Their personalities differ greatly, creating tension within the group even before tragedy strikes. Also traveling with the expedition is Glass's son, Hawk. The bond between father and son is strong, though life on the frontier leaves little room for open expressions of emotion. Glass teaches his son the skills needed to survive in the wild, hoping to prepare him for the dangerous world around them. Hawk admires his father's strength and wisdom, and despite the hardships of their journey, the two share a quiet understanding built on trust and respect. The expedition soon faces a violent encounter when a group of native warriors attacks their camp. The sudden assault throws the trappers into chaos as arrows cut through the air and gunfire echoes across the riverbanks. Men scramble to escape while others attempt to defend themselves against the overwhelming attack. In the confusion, many lives are lost, and the survivors are forced to flee deeper into the wilderness. The remaining members of the group retreat into the forest, desperate to escape the danger pursuing them. Their leader struggles to keep the survivors together while navigating unfamiliar territory. The journey becomes slower and more exhausting as the men carry heavy supplies across snowy hills and frozen rivers. Every mile traveled feels like a battle against the unforgiving land. During this difficult journey, disaster strikes in a way none of them expect. While scouting ahead through the woods, Glass suddenly encounters a massive bear protecting her cubs. The attack is swift and brutally violent. The animal charges through the forest, overpowering Glass with overwhelming strength. He fights desperately to survive, but the bear's fury leaves him gravely wounded before it finally disappears back into the wilderness. When the other trappers find Glass, they are shocked by the severity of his injuries. His body is torn and broken, and he struggles even to breathe. Believing that he will not survive the journey, the group decides to build a makeshift shelter and wait with him for as long as possible. But time is running out, and the fear of another attack forces them to make a difficult decision. A few men volunteer to stay behind with Glass until he dies so the rest of the expedition can continue toward safety. Among those who remain are Fitzgerald and Hawk. At first, they appear willing to honor their promise, but the harsh conditions and constant danger begin to change their intentions. Fitzgerald grows increasingly impatient as the days pass. He believes staying with a dying man in the middle of hostile territory is foolish and dangerous. The wilderness shows no mercy, and every moment spent waiting could mean death for those who remain. As his fear and frustration grow, Fitzgerald begins considering a desperate and selfish solution. One night, the tension reaches its breaking point. In a moment driven by greed and fear, Fitzgerald commits a betrayal that shatters the fragile trust within the group. The act leaves Glass abandoned in the wilderness, gravely wounded and barely alive. Fitzgerald convinces the others that Glass has died, and the group continues their journey without looking back. But Glass does not die. Despite his broken body and unimaginable pain, he clings to life with sheer determination. Alone in the freezing wilderness, unable to walk or speak clearly, he begins an impossible struggle for survival. Every movement is agony, yet he slowly crawls across the frozen ground, refusing to surrender to the wilderness that threatens to claim him. The journey that follows becomes a relentless test of human endurance. Glass drags himself through snow-covered forests, across icy rivers, and over jagged terrain while fighting hunger, infection, and the relentless cold. The wilderness that once seemed familiar now becomes an unforgiving enemy determined to finish what the bear started. Yet Glass refuses to give up. His memories of his son and the betrayal he suffered drive him forward. Each day he pushes himself further, learning once again how to survive using whatever the land provides. He finds shelter in caves, drinks from frozen streams, and slowly rebuilds the strength needed to stand again. As the days pass, Glass transforms from a wounded survivor into a man fueled by a single purpose. The wilderness that nearly killed him now becomes the path guiding him toward justice. Every step brings him closer to the men who left him behind and the truth that must eventually be confronted. Meanwhile, Fitzgerald believes the past has been buried beneath the snow. Convinced that Glass could never survive such injuries, he continues his journey, unaware that the man he betrayed is still alive and slowly closing the distance between them. The story unfolds as a powerful struggle between man and nature, but also between betrayal and resilience. Glass's journey becomes more than just survival. It becomes a testament to the strength of the human spirit when faced with unimaginable suffering. As he moves deeper through the wilderness, Glass begins encountering people who challenge his understanding of revenge and justice. Some offer brief moments of compassion in a world otherwise filled with cruelty. These encounters slowly reshape the path he believes he must follow. The frozen wilderness remains silent as Glass continues his relentless pursuit. Snow falls across the forests and rivers, covering the footprints of those who passed before him. Yet the determination burning within him cannot be buried beneath the cold. The journey eventually leads to a final confrontation where the truth of what happened in the wilderness must be faced. The man who was left for dead now stands once more, hardened by survival and shaped by the unforgiving land that nearly claimed his life. In the end, the story reveals something deeper than revenge. It shows the extraordinary will to live that exists within a person even when the world seems determined to destroy them. The wilderness may break the body, but the human spirit can endure far beyond what anyone believes possible. Across the endless snow-covered frontier, the legend of survival continues to echo, and the man who refused to die becomes a reminder that sometimes the greatest victory is simply living long enough to see the truth revealed.